I think that we are able now to cross to Lagos, where we can speak to the former Minister of Abuja and a prominent opposition party member, Nasir El-Rufai. A very good afternoon to you. I think that you are aware of what our guest, Dr. Stephen Davis, was telling us. And he was really, it was a powerful conversation we had with him, and he was saying quite directly and quite abruptly that certain politicians from both parties have, over the past few years, supported Boko Haram, the terror group, with funding. What's your take on this?
Well, you know, for quite a while, many of us that live and have worked in Nigeria had come to the conclusion that this metamorphosis of Boko Haram from a group of ragtag insurgents to a fully pledged army that is defeating the Nigerian army has a more deeper narrative than what it appears. And many of us have made very open allegations that elements within the government and outside must have been financing and directing the affairs of Boko Haram. So the revelations by Stephen Davis only confirm the suspicion that some of us hold and have held since October 2010, when the first bomb exploded in Abuja, and that was the beginning of a new trend in terrorism in our country.
Isn't there not enough evidence? I mean, he is saying, Dr. Davis is suggesting that there is enough evidence to point to these specific people. And if so, and I know that President Jonathan has mentioned in the past, over the past year, of certain individuals as well. So why is it the case that they are not arrested?
Well, I think that, unfortunately, President Jonathan is playing politics with terrorism. The ruling party appears to be a beneficiary of the terrorist activities. And for that reason, he is unable or unwilling to arrest those that have been named. Today, Mr. Davis has named the former governor of Borno State, Alimadu Sharif, who is very close to President Jonathan, who has enjoyed special favors from the government. Recently, when he went to Maiduguri, his hometown, to declare for the ruling party, an airport that had been closed for years was opened just to receive him. So he's a kind of special person. He's a sacred cow, so he has not been arrested. And everyone knows that the Boko Haram phenomenon began with Alimadu Sharif when he was governor of Borno State. Mr. Davis has also named the former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ihijerika, as one of those that are sponsors, as well as people that named targets for Boko Haram. And I think what is left for President Jonathan is to immediately arrest these people and question them and get together all the evidence that the security agencies and the international intelligence agencies have gathered in the last few months and years, and bring them to justice. The attitude of the government that the insurgency favors them and will be a veritable tool to use for religious and ethnic division in the next elections no longer cut it. Nigeria is in grave danger, and the president should do what he needs to do as commander-in-chief and the chief security officer of the country and stop playing politics with this dangerous phenomenon.
I suppose that the irony here, that as we speak, that President Jonathan has accused you of being a sponsor of Boko Haram.
Yes, that is the irony, but all the evidence right from the beginning of this phenomenon points to the fact that the ruling party and the government are somehow intricately linked with terrorism. It began in 1st of October 2010 when the first bomb exploded in Abuja, and President Jonathan declared that it was not MENT that was responsible for the bombing. Now, how could a president without security briefing and investigation declare that a terrorist group that has claimed responsibility for a bombing is not responsible unless he knows who is responsible? That was the first indication. The second was when the National Security Advisor at the time, Lieutenant General Azazi, declared in the PDP, in the ruling party conference, that the reasons behind the insurgency lay within the ruling party. The policies and the selection procedures of the ruling party for office was responsible for the insurgency. Thirdly, many people that we know are intricately linked to the ruling party, including a senator on trial for terrorism, are all members of the ruling party. Till date, not one person, not one official, or anyone connected with the opposition party, All Progressives Congress, has been linked to terrorism. All those that have been arrested or put on trial for terrorism were members of the ruling People's Democratic Party. So it is disingenuous on the part of the Jonathan administration to try to point fingers at the APC, when in fact all the sponsors of terrorism and insurgency so far that have been named have been found in the ruling party.
Well, when is Nigeria going to get to grips with the threat from Boko Haram? We were hearing from our guest, Dr. Stephen Davis, there, that they have been, as he put it, in talks with Al-Qaeda, with the Islamic State, and with Al-Shabaab in Somalia. The thing is getting completely out of hand. Many, many thousands of people dead, and yet a neutral observer looking in on this would think, how on earth is it that Nigeria isn't getting to grips with this?
Nigeria is not getting to grips with the problem for two reasons. First, we have an incompetent government that is incapable of doing anything right, in my opinion. Secondly, I think the ruling party and the president thinks that sustaining the insurgency will be helpful to them in the 2015 elections. As we stand, the country is deeply divided along regional, religious, and ethnic lines, and Mr. Jonathan thinks that that will help him in the next elections. This is why desperate efforts by the ruling party have been invested in making the opposition All Progressives Congress to be tagged a Muslim party, to be likened to the Muslim Brotherhood of Egypt and all that. It is convenient for the government, in the government's narrow and shallow thinking, that sustaining the insurgency is politically useful to them until 2015, when they think they would have won the elections. But the danger of that, as Mr. Davis pointed out, is that as time goes on, as Boko Haram gets better resourced and better organized, it is becoming a credible threat to the Nigerian state. As things stand, our soldiers cannot confidently face and fight Boko Haram. They are running away into Cameroon. They are engaging in mutiny. Their wives are saying our soldiers will not face Boko Haram without better arms and ammunition. And these are all self-inflicted outcomes of an incompetent and politically minded government that is desperate to retain power at all costs, even at the cost of killing thousands and thousands of its citizens. And that is most unfortunate.
Dr. Davis
is for
was
Nigerians
at the same
and
time.
all people.
Forgive me for interrupting.
Pardon?
Dr. Davis was also saying that, in his view, there was enough blame, as he put it, to go around internationally. The likes of the UK, France, and the United States were also not doing enough to help Nigeria, and they have their own obvious strategic interests in this as well. Is that what's felt in Nigeria, that we in the West should be doing far more?
Well, yes, when the Western intelligence agencies all came to Nigeria, many Nigerians were hopeful that somehow the West will solve the problem. But we in the opposition party believe this is a Nigerian problem. It has been internationalized due to neglect, but it is our problem and we need to stand up and solve it. We can solve it by ensuring that our army is resourced and motivated to fight the insurgents. We will solve it by not playing politics with the insurgency and not looking at this as a North-South or Muslim-Christian issue, and uniting behind the right policies to address the causes of Boko Haram, which is poverty, unemployment, and lack of opportunity and hope. It's a fundamentally Nigerian problem. What more can the international community do, in my opinion, is to provide more accurate intelligence and make it a bit more public, because right now, all the assistance that the US and European intelligence agencies give to the government are only known to the government. We know that the government has a lot of information about the sponsors of Boko Haram, about the financiers and some of the operations of Boko Haram, but the government is not sharing this with anyone, and for that reason is continuously creating excuses to do nothing. And it is this do-nothing attitude that has brought us to where we are, and this has to change. So we need to know more. We need to know more about what the US and the European intelligence agencies are providing to the government with a view to ending this insurgency. It is a Nigerian problem, and I believe that with a good government, well, if we vote out Jonathan and his group in 2015, we'll begin to see a serious government that will address the insurgency using a combination of carrot and stick, as well as the assistance of the international intelligence community. We think that's the way forward.
All right, Nasir El-Rufai, thank you very much indeed for taking the time out to speak to us here on Arise News this afternoon. And of course, very explosive and serious allegations made on this program over the past 1.5 hours or so. A military chief having been named, former military chief, and a former governor of a Nigerian state named as well as supporting, the allegations and the claims are that they have been supporting Boko Haram, the terror group, but obviously we're going to give them the right of reply, of course innocent until proved guilty. Hopefully later in the day we'll have some reply from both of these people.